Are you looking to get ready, be prepared, and transform your financial future? Then you've come to the right place. This is the Get Ready Money Podcast with Tony Stewart, where Tony has insightful conversations with financial experts who are changing the way we think about money. Catch up on the latest financial trends and hear practical advice from Tony and his expert guests so you can build healthy habits that work. Be empowered with tips for implementing small changes that can have a big impact on your financial future. So sit back and get ready to hear from today's guest.
Welcome to the Get Ready Money Podcast, changing the way we think about money. I'm pleased to be joined today by Sheryl Moore. Sheryl Moore is the president and CEO of Moore Market Intelligence and Wink Incorporated. In this episode, we'll be discussing Sheryl's insights on how we change the way we think about money and building relationships. Sheryl, welcome to the Get Ready Money Podcast. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Tony. I'm excited to talk with you.
Yeah, me too. We've known each other for a while, but can't wait to get your insights. So, Sheryl, tell us a little bit about yourself. What is your origin story?
Well, I will tell you, I am a wife and mom of five. I actually work in the life insurance industry and got my start 25 years ago working for an insurance company. Today, that company is known as Athene, but they are a couple of times removed from the name of the company when I worked there. So I was in charge of competitive intelligence and product development for the company when I worked there. I enjoyed my job very much, but they changed their health plan. And my oldest child was born with birth defects and health problems that required surgeries every year. So I was kind of in a tricky position where I had to leave my employer despite the fact that I loved my job very much. So I went to work for another insurance company in Des Moines. And to be perfectly honest with you, Tony, I wanted to spoon my eyes out the first week I was working there. It was a huge challenge for me because this insurance company distributed their products through career agents who were essentially captive to the insurance company and couldn't sell other people's products. And competitive intelligence and career distribution are oxymorons. They don't go together very well. If I had $1 for every time they told me that they'll sell what we give them because they have to, I'd be rich. So I made it about 8 months there before I started looking for other employment. And what do you know? They demutualized and decided that having competitive intelligence put their stockholders at risk. So I got my pink slip. I was laid off. And I was a single mom of 3 babies, all in diapers. My first husband was a police officer who went to federal prison. And so I needed to find another job doing competitive intelligence and product development. But the tricky thing is, I'm not an actuary. To tell the truth, I'm not even really great at math. I rely on Microsoft Excel for all of my mathematics. So I was looking for another job and I couldn't find one in Des Moines, Iowa. I live here in the insurance capital of the US. There's 100 insurance companies in Iowa, but I could not find another company that had a job doing what I do. So I had no choice other than to start my own company, and that was the origins of Wink.
That's awesome. I want to go back to one of the very first things you said is that you changed jobs originally because of your health insurance.
Yes.
And, could you talk about that for a minute? Because I know a lot of people feel, that they're trapped because of their health insurance. What was that about? Can you go into that?
Yeah, so my little boy was born with ulcerative colitis and cleft lip and cleft palate. And when you have cleft lip and cleft palate, your face grows as you age, and that requires surgeries almost every year, and sometimes more than once in a year. And so when I was working for Ameris Group and they changed their health plan, It honestly was something I did not know happens, Tony. I didn't realize insurance companies would change their health plans, much less any employer would. I didn't hear a lot of people complaining about the health plan, but interestingly, the insurance company was trying to prepare themselves to sell to another insurance company. And so maybe cutting costs was a part of it. I don't know. I can only speculate, but I can tell you that I felt very helpless and kind of depressed because I loved my job, but I was put in this unfortunate position to have to look for employment elsewhere.
Yeah, it's amazing. I definitely don't want to take up the whole episode talking about health insurance, but I think this illustrates something, about the health insurance has such a big factor in our employment. I know with my wife has thought about early retirement, but we're worried about losing her health insurance. She has fantastic health insurance. Um, but I think one thing you point out that people oftentimes take for granted is that their health insurance plan remains the same from year to year, and they don't go back and review their health insurance. So I think if you are relying on any health insurance plan, whether or not it's through your employer, you need to go back and as you see, as you talk about is see if there were any changes that impact your health insurance needs. It's because you had very specific needs and needed to be covered. Um,
Well, the
so that's,
irony, since I started my own business 19 and a half years ago, my health plan has changed multiple times. And my employees are almost annually having to review benefits documents to check on coverage because I always pay for the most expensive health plan in the state so that my employees have really great health insurance. And it seems like the health insurance company has mispriced it or something because every year they come back and go, oh, that's not available anymore. You have to choose from these 3 new plans. So the irony was I had no idea that an employer could change health plans. And now I'm in a position where I change ours constantly just because it's constantly being obliterated.
yeah. And that's the thing with every financial service and product is, things are going to change. And the health insurance industry especially is very volatile with the plans. So I guess let's move on. My bad for dwelling on this. I hope for our listeners this has been too much of a detour. So, as we talked about Wink, you talked about why you created Wink, so what does Wink do?
Yeah, Wink is a market research firm. Basically, I have this giant database that houses all the product information for the life insurance and annuity products that are available for sale in the US today. And it stores information like what are their policy provisions, their withdrawal privileges, their credited interest rates, and things of that nature. And then, interestingly, after I started the database, I started tracking sales of life insurance and annuity products. So you've probably heard of LIMRA. LIMRA is my biggest competitor, but we report sales on a more granular level than LIMRA does. So
Mhm.
LIMRA might say that Jackson National Life is the #1 seller of variable annuities, but Wink will come in and say, yes, that's true. They are the #1 seller of variable annuities, but they have 8 different variable annuity products. Their Perspective 2 product is their #1 seller, and they sold this much of it through banks, this much through independent BDs, independent agents, what have you. So we report sales at a level where people can actually tell what's driving sales. And that is especially invaluable to insurance companies.
Well, that's awesome. So, because that creates some transparency and it creates some, information flow. Do you feel that Wink has changed the insurance industry?
I do think it has changed the insurance industry, but in a way you wouldn't expect. So I would say I spend about 80% of my time doing things that I am not paid for directly. And one of those things is fact checking for journalists who are writing about life insurance and annuity products. So whenever they need to know how much sold or who's the #1 seller or how does this type of product work, they reach out to me and I help them to understand this industry and its products and its sales. And so one thing I'm really proud of is that we have forged relationships with over 55 different news media outlets to help them in their fact checking and reporting on these products. And I would say, Tony, I don't want to take all the credit, but we have really changed the narrative about annuities in the public domain. It used to be really common for me to get as many as 8 different negative and inaccurate articles on annuities in a single day. And now, thanks to a couple of different factors, I don't even see one a week a lot of times. So I think the data has really helped to change attitudes about annuities in particular.
Yeah, well, and I think it's education is, that before, Wink is there was less information about that. We were talking about that pre-show. There was a little bit in the life insurance industry through police research, but that with the flow of information is, and the greater work of the show is about financial literacy, and that's all about information and data. Mm-hmm. And so it's really amazing to see how Wink has, through showcasing data, helped change the way people think about annuities in general. So that's awesome. And kudos to you and the Wink team. I know it's not just you. You've got a big team. Or how big of a team do you have now?
I have 10 people working for me now. 10.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I hope to hire my first actuary this year. So then we'll be 11 strong.
Awesome. Well, we won't make any actuary jokes then if you're going to be recruiting actuaries. Actuary jokes take place later. Sorry, no insult to all the actuaries out there who are listening. So let's talk about relationships, because I know a big part of your business has been building relationships. Why is building relationships so important?
Well, I mean, to me, the reason that relationships are important is because I like to help people. And it always makes me feel really good when I speak to someone and they say, I have this need. I wish I knew somebody who fill in the blank. And then I'm able to say, you know what? I have a friend actually who knows about that. What if I connect the two of you? And it just makes me feel like I'm making kind of a love connection. You know what I mean, Tony? But the other thing about it is, really, I would credit the success of my business to networking, because I have made it a point to go out and meet all the CEOs of the insurance companies and connect with their product development people and showcase, here's what I know, and I know it because of Wink, and then they subscribe and use our products and services. So it's not only helped me to help other people, but it's helped me to increase my bottom line as well.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, and I know you're a very active networker on LinkedIn. You've got over, 16,000 connections, something?
23,000.
23,000. Okay, so I was only off by about 7,000. It's what is it like having that kind of network and everything?
Well, I love it because I get a lot of engagement on the discussions that we have on LinkedIn, and I get to learn all the time because of different people's perspectives. But the other thing about it is you're never going to make everybody happy. And sometimes I'll get trolls or naysayers or folks who just don't agree with what I have to say. Like today, I'm having what I call a LinkedIn fight with a registered investment advisor who is pro DOL fiduciary rule. And I'm not really a fan of the fiduciary rule. So we're kind of hashing it out on LinkedIn and arguing with each other. And that's kind of an unfortunate side effect of having so many connections, because I do like to connect with people who are very different from myself and from my target market. Because if I connect with people I don't know or who are outside of my circle, so to speak, I have the opportunity to learn more. And so I like to connect with a diverse type of individual so that I can increase my knowledge.
That's awesome. And I think for people out there who are building their networks, that is a positive. I know I've benefited from my network growing and gotten to meet so many cool people by having those conversations, except for those people from Bangladesh who want to do SEO for the podcast. they're not welcome to connect. So,
Amen to that, Tony.
but that's awesome. And I know you and I have participated in some really good conversations, you pretty much always on the same side of things. And,
Yeah,
but it is amazing is that if you are active on LinkedIn, I think for people is that you can really learn a lot by engaging, not just scrolling through your feed, but actually engaging with the posts that you see is you learn a lot and you can get into some really, I think, high quality conversations. There's some smart people.
agreed. I like it. I mean, I spend most of my time on LinkedIn now just because I've named a president of my company and I just do business development and strategy now. And so a lot of that means working leads on LinkedIn, and it's the best part of my day, to be honest with you. I really enjoy the learning aspect.
That's awesome. And what is your new title? I love it.
Chief storyteller.
It is one of the most awesome titles. Although I have to say, the best title I've heard on LinkedIn is the CEO of Life Quotes. I don't know if you know him, Bob Bland, but he calls
No.
himself the Chief Ashtray Cleaner.
That's definitely better than chief storyteller. I like that.
You can't be Chief Ashtray Cleaner. So, Sheryl, that's awesome. But I do love Chief Storyteller, and I think that says a lot about who you are and what you do. And I think that as people talk about building relationships, is that for those of you who know Sheryl, know, and I know this, that you're very open and
Yeah.
you're direct and you state your opinion. And I think that's always awesome, to state your opinion and say why you believe it,
Yeah.
rather than just to.
Well, I appreciate your support, Tony. I mean, I do have a strong personality, so my opinions aren't always appreciated, but I am transparent, and I like for people to get genuine Sheryl when they're interacting with me. And that's part of why I mix in personal stuff with business stuff when I'm posting on LinkedIn. I was just thinking about the fact that I shared with everybody that I got in a car accident. And what's interesting is you'll see that the commentary that I get on the personal post is almost double what I get on the business post. So it's really interesting to see that dynamic.
I do as well. And I think, before we segue into the get ready questions, is that, that points out that people want to know the real you and the
Yeah.
authentic you, that they don't want the polished person. If it
Mm-hmm.
was just Sheryl, founder and CEO of Wink, that wouldn't be very exciting. It's just so packaged that I think people are
Mm-hmm.
looking for authentic. And it's clear, with your success in networking and building up such a large network, that people like authenticity and
Yeah,
everything.
I think so too.
So for all those you who are trying to build up your networks, something to consider is just be yourself. And it's so much easier to be yourself than to be someone else.
So true.
Yeah, so let's get into the get ready questions. The first one is, what basic money concept do you wish people knew?
I wish people knew that you can essentially create your own pension using an annuity and guarantee that you'll receive a paycheck every month for the rest of your life. That should be a basic money concept, but most people, less than 25% of the population, knows what an annuity is.
Yeah, that is amazing. Well, since we're talking about it, what is an annuity?
An annuity is a retirement savings instrument that basically provides a tax deferral feature. And like I said, guarantees you a paycheck every month for the rest of your life. Even if you live to be 150, Tony, you would still get that paycheck for life. And what is kind of abstract and most people don't know about annuities is that if you put $100,000 into an annuity, the insurance company sends you checks every month, but even once they've returned the whole 100,000 to you, they keep sending you that check every month. So that makes an annuity uniquely positioned to address the number one fear of Americans, which is running out of money in retirement.
Definitely. Well, and I think what you point out is so valid, and we're hearing more about people using annuities in retirement plans to protect against that longevity risk.
Hmm.
And, and I think that's part of what you were talking about earlier is changing the perception of annuities. And I think the other thing is with the transparency that Wink's helping with is that annuities, there's thousands, millions of different annuities out there. I don't know if there's millions,
There's like
but there's tens of
4,000 of them.
thousands. Yeah. And so, for consumers, or as an advisor, you can start out really simply with a single premium fixed annuity and then go from there. You don't have to start with the most complicated annuity on the market because most people, at least in my opinion, are probably not going to benefit from the most complicated annuity on the market.
I am a big fan of Warren Buffett, and he always said that he would never buy anything that he didn't understand. And I like to give people that same advice. If you don't understand it, you probably shouldn't buy it.
Yeah, I love it, and that's advice I give people as well. You don't understand it, you have no business buying it. So the next question is, what is one simple thing people can do each year to set themselves up for financial success?
Creating a budget. I am such a huge fan of budgets, and I use Microsoft Excel to manage my budget. It works out great, but that can help with things like determining what you're going to do for a vacation or how much money you're going to spend going out on dates to restaurants and movies and things like that. I just think if more Americans created a budget, they could feel better about their primary living expenses being covered and know how much they have for those discretionary expenses.
Yeah, I love it. I think that's so important is before you do anything is you usually check your inventory or
Mm-hmm.
your resources. Like even before you go grocery shopping, you go, okay, well, we have flour, we don't have flour, we need flour, and if you don't know your numbers, you're not going to be able to make as good a choice as you might end up with too much flour, for example. So
That's a great analogy. Good job.
maybe I'm hungry, so I don't know. We'll chalk it up to that. So Sheryl, what is one habit that people can change when it comes to their money?
Um, in my mind, the very first thing I thought of when you asked me that question is starting to save money for retirement at a young age. So I'll be very transparent in telling you that my initial retirement savings plan that was provided through an employer was an ESOP or an employee stock ownership program. And when I left employment for that company, I cashed out my ESOP. And then when I went to work for an insurance company, they had a 401k. And when I had a financial need to start my business, I cashed out my 401k and used that money. And now that I'm 48, I look back on those decisions and think, you know what, those were really poor decisions. I should have left that money alone and not looked at it like a checking account, so to speak. I think that if more people took advantage of the opportunity to start saving when they're young, we would be much more prepared for retirement as a nation than we are today. I read a statistic somewhere that said that I think it was 90% of Americans have less than $1,000 in their savings account. And that's distressing to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I don't know if that's the exact statistic I've seen, but definitely in that neighborhood. And we tend to think, well, these people, they don't know what they're doing, they're not educated, whatever. I don't think that's it. I think it's, it's what you're talking about is creating a budget, knowing how much you're going to spend is, that people do their spending first and then their savings last instead of
Yeah,
doing their savings first. Where if you're doing a budget, you can say, okay, well, we're spending too much money. I don't have any money left over at the end of the month. So
that's very
that's awesome
insightful of
advice.
you, Tony. Absolutely.
Yeah, so no, I'm with you 100% on that. I think that is a great habit. The best day to start saving is today. So don't worry if you're not 18 anymore, you can start saving today and it'll be better than starting tomorrow. So
That's right.
Yeah. So, what is one, this one I know is up your alley. What money myth are you trying to break?
Oh, annuities are not consumer friendly.
Tell us more.
So there are a lot of misnomers about annuities. Like if I purchase an annuity and die the next day, then I lose all my money and it doesn't go to my family. Or annuities lock up your money. Or annuities have high fees. I mean, all of these are misconceptions about annuities that are not true. And so that's really something I'd like to change so that people understand, annuities have a lot of opportunities to take withdrawals or get cash out of the contract if you have a need. And most annuities don't have fees at all. And the bulk of annuities that are available today will pay the full value at death if you should pass away so that your family inherits that money. So there are a lot of myths that are perpetuated by the popular media when it comes to these products, and I'd like to see that change.
That's awesome. Well, do you think these myths are perpetrated because of what annuities actually are, or do you think it's just that people don't fully understand them in the media?
Well, to be earnest with you, Tony, the number one piece of feedback that I get back from journalists when I correct them about these inaccurate statements is that they were using a source which was not accurate. So, for example, hey, so and so at the Wall Street Journal, I'm concerned that you published this statistic on annuities, which is not accurate. To what do you attribute that? Oh gosh, Sheryl, you know what? I was reading a New York Times article that said that in it, so I thought I could trust it. So most of it comes back to really understanding your resources and leveraging credible sources of information.
I love that. Leverage credible sources of information. And that's something some of my guests have talked about on the show is, if you're getting your information from TikTok, which is not exactly the same thing that you're talking about, you're not going to get great information. But I do share your experiences. I do some expert content review work for some major personal finance websites. And that's something that I've experienced in talking with the teams is, say, well, this isn't necessarily wrong, but it's not right either. And they'll say,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, we saw it on so-and-so's website and we saw it over here. And I'm like, well, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's right. It's just because
Yes.
that's a popular opinion. Like there was a life insurance product that had been invented that wasn't even a product that the industry had ever done. But when I started Googling it, just, because I became more curious about the rabbit hole, it was on like 20 different personal finance sites.
Oh
And
my
it was a
gosh.
non-existent life insurance product. I don't remember what it was, but I'm like, I've heard of that. But I mean, you and I have been doing this for a long time. So there's a lot of products out there. So I go, what's possible? I've never come across this before.
Yeah.
And lo and
The
behold,
imaginary life
one jerk,
insurance product.
yeah, somebody at some media place invented it, and I don't know why. But
But that's scary too, Tony, because you think about it, and the average American has certain news media outlets that they consider to be credible sources of information when it comes to financial services. And you wouldn't expect to read the New York Times and read something that's not true about life insurance or annuities, would you?
yeah, but I think that's, and I know there's some amazing journalists and media people that I've worked with over the years, and most are very diligent about their
Mm-hmm.
fact checking and nailing this down. But you have to remember at the end of the day is where they're getting their information from. And if you're looking sometimes even at the expert sources they cite, do those expert sources actually know what they're talking about
Yeah.
as well? That's sometimes something I've seen is that they're not going to people who are subject matter experts. They may be personal finance gurus and
Mm-hmm.
they're getting quotes from them and they're not getting quotes from somebody who actually really knows the industry. and has a good understanding of the financial service products. And I know we've gone down a little bit of a tangent here, but I hope for our listeners and viewers is that you take this to heart when you're looking at some of this information online. Even if it seems like it's a credible source, make sure that they really know what they're talking about, and fact check it on any financial services or products, because it's your money and you need to take the time to educate yourself and make your own decisions. Don't let someone else make the decision for you.
Absolutely. With the World Wide Web, there are few excuses for people not researching when it comes to financial services.
Exactly. So, Sheryl, let's get out the time machine for a minute. What advice would you give your younger self if you could go back in time knowing what you know now about money?
Get more life insurance. I'm a business owner, and I have every employee that I have is a key employee. So I have key person life insurance on all of my employees, just because my business would suffer financially if I were to lose anyone who works for me. But my number one key employee is myself. And when I was young and started this business 19 and a half years ago, I did not have any health conditions. And I just picked a nice round number and got that much life insurance, thinking that was enough for my business. But I never conceived that my business would have a $9 million valuation. And today I don't have enough life insurance for myself. I wish I had purchased enough to work in some business succession plan for my president to buy the company. Now we're kind of in a position where $9 million is a lot of money to come up with, Tony. And it would have been nice if we'd had the life insurance to help pay for the sale of the business. So that's my number one regret, because I now have some significant health challenges. And what's ironic is that I bought life insurance on my son with the birth defects and health problems when he was a very little boy, when I first started working for the insurance company. And the reason that I bought it was mostly to help him save up for college. But I purchased what's called a guaranteed purchase option on the policy, which basically gives me the opportunity to get additional insurance without having to go through health underwriting, so that he could get more insurance in the event that he would suffer some significant health challenge and no longer be eligible to buy life insurance. So that's why I got it for him, but it didn't occur to me that I might have a significant health challenge. And now I'm in a position where I'm underinsured, and it's unfortunate, but that's the number one thing that I wish I could change if I had a chance to go back and do it again.
Yeah, and that's a tough one. It's one I get asked about, in life insurance, should I buy it before you need it? And I think that's a hard one, is because you don't know, like with your business, you hope when you start a business that it's going to grow, but most small businesses fail. So it's hard to say, well, I better buy this big, key person policy. But I think the lesson that you're saying is that as the need developed, is you need to act on it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, definitely.
And as you talked about, is, something like a guaranteed purchase option is, that's a great idea, because then you're not paying for a whole life insurance policy. Or where I see this really a lot is on a disability insurance policy with a future income option, is you are protecting your future insurability. And I think that's really important. It's great advice. Thank you. So Sheryl, to wrap up, what is your number one tip on changing the way we think about money?
What I'd really like to take away, just because this is a public forum and hopefully we'll have lots of people tuning in, is just that, it really strikes me that the number one fear of Americans is running out of money in retirement. People are more afraid of that than they are speaking in public or dying, which says a lot, Tony. And since I've learned about annuities, and the power that they have to guarantee that you receive a paycheck every month for the rest of your life, no matter how long you live, I just think that's a very powerful financial services instrument that obviously not enough people know about, because the statistic is less than 25% of Americans are aware of what an annuity is. So that's the one thing that I'd really like as a takeaway for the show, is just that people have the ability to create kind of a personal pension using annuities.
Yeah, and I completely agree. But the question that I have, and I've seen this as a consumer advocate, is do you think the industry could do a better job in how they talk about annuities and how they market them?
I wrote an article about this called The Annuity Model is Broken. And that's because the majority of annuities are sold by independent insurance agents who can basically sell annuities for any insurance company that sells through independent insurance agents. And those independent insurance agents work with what's called a marketing organization or a brokerage general agency, who helps recruit agents, train agents, get them licensed and contracted, helps them with sales ideas. And so really, when you think about it, the old model of life insurance used career agents, where the insurance company looked at the agent as an employee, and that agent could only sell products for that insurance company. Things have changed dramatically now with independent insurance agents. And the insurance company basically has the attitude that, hey, I'm just a product manufacturer. That's my only job now. And because of that, we really don't see a lot of insurance companies advertising about life insurance and annuities. I can't recall the last time I was watching TV and saw a commercial about annuities, much less a magazine ad or a flyer. I mean, insurance companies just aren't telling that story anymore, because they look at it as being the responsibility of the marketing organization or the brokerage general agency. And the BGA or marketing organization is saying, look, I have a limited amount of money. I can't advertise on television or put national ads in magazines. So, distribution has evolved, and I think that it's not all positive. But hopefully we can change that narrative somehow. I think the World Wide Web has a lot of opportunity to educate consumers and put them in a position to have more information about these products than they've had before.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I think that's, so if you're in the personal finance world and, as a consumer, hopefully you've learned something about annuities and you can look into them further. And if you're in the personal finance space, actually the next question will be, how can people follow you and learn about Wink? So we'll go into that question and then I'll close up. So Sheryl, where can people learn more about you? Where can they learn more about Wink Incorporated?
So there's a couple of different places that you can learn more about me. If you want to learn about professional Sheryl and what I do in life insurance and my experience, you can go to SherylJMoore.com, and it's Sheryl with an S, middle initial J, MOORE.com. But if you want to know the fun parts of me, I would head over to the Wink website at winkintel.com. That's Intel, short for intelligence. And I have a personal profile out there, along with one for each of my employees, where you can learn some fun work facts as well as some unique facts, like I have over 40 pairs of Converse All-Stars that are sequined or glittered.
That's right. Great pictures on LinkedIn for those.
Yeah, thank you.
So it's awesome. So everybody watching or listening, I'll have links to Sheryl's websites as well as to your LinkedIn profile. So you can reach out to Sheryl. You can check out what she's up to, check out what Wink's up to, and learn more about annuities and building relationships and life insurance. And thank you, Sheryl, for joining us today on the Get Ready Money podcast.
Thank you so much, Tony. It's been a blast.
Yeah, this was fun. And as always, thank you everyone for tuning in to this episode of the Get Ready Money podcast. If you learned something today to change the way you think about money, please be sure to subscribe and share with a friend. Until next time, let's change the way we think about money.